Hi, welcome to Pro Soundski. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do parallel drum compression. And what that's going to do is add a lot more energy to your live drums without increasing the level. So essentially you're going to capture a lot of the reflections from the room, with each drum hit, and just have a lot more texture and punchiness to your drums as a result. So as an example, here's a drum track. So it sounds alright. You could tell that it's a live drum recording. Somebody's playing a loop here. But now let's say we want this to sound way bigger and we can't really afford to raise the overall level of these drums in whatever mix we have going, simply because those transients are already pretty loud, they're peaking pretty high, and we don't want it to be clipping in our mix, but we still want more energy out of these drums. This technique is a great way to achieve that. So here's what this sounds like with the glue compressor. Actually, let me play it before the compressor once again so you can really hear the difference, and then I'll throw on the glue compressor with the glue compressor. So you could see what I'm talking about, right? All of a sudden you feel like you're right there in front of that drum kit and it just sounds huge. You hear the room that it's in, you feel that you're in this room. So that is really the effect that parallel drum compression has. Now the key thing to note is if you look at this peak level right here on your track, you want that to be roughly the same before and after processing your drums. The reason is if you add your glue compressor and all of a sudden your drums are way louder, they're going to sound better simply because your level is higher. To our ears, anything that's louder tends to sound better. So you want to be really careful and avoid that and just have an unbiased judgment with the levels being the same. So let's see what our peak levels are before processing. Okay, so it's actually over 0 dB, a little bit, 0.32. It's not bad. You can click this, by the way, to reset it. And let's see what it is after the glue compressor. So you can see it's actually even less than it was before, but yet it sounds and feels louder and punchier, and all the notes have, or all the hits have a lot more sustain. So we've achieved that effect without raising the level, which you're on the right track if that's what you're getting. So let's talk about this glue compressor now. So traditionally, to achieve parallel compression, what people would do is take their drum track and then make a copy of it, and then they would compress the crap out of the copied drums. So completely squash the signal, kill all the dynamic range in it, and then slowly just kind of, blend that in with the original drums. And that's parallel compression. But with the glue compressor, it's really convenient that they have this dry wet mix knob here, which allows you to simply dial in the wet signal, so you don't need to make a copy of the original track. And as far as the attack and the release settings, I prefer to have them all the way down. The reason is I want our compressed signal to be compressed right away. So I don't want the glue compressor to wait, for example, up to 30 milliseconds to start compressing, because all of a sudden, if you do that, if you think about it, you're allowing the transients from the original and the compressed signals to just double up. So all of a sudden they become twice as loud. And that's really not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is just get more of the fullness in the drums from all the reflections in the room. So you want to grab that signal right away. You want to start compressing right away. And I also like to keep the release very fast as well, because I want the compressor to get back to its original position right away after each drum hit, so that you don't have another drum hit happening as the compressor is still trying to recover from the previous one, because then that's going to really mess up the dynamics of your groove. So that's what I like to do. I've seen people kind of play around with these at different settings. I would say at these lower values on the attack and the release, it doesn't make a huge difference to my ear, but definitely, play around with them and see if you can hear the difference. A lower or a faster attack and release are generally a safe bet. Also, most of the time people use a ratio of 4. Sometimes you see people using a ratio of 2. If you have another compressor, play around with different ratios. Sometimes you might use a ratio of up to 10. Either way, the whole point is just to compress the signal as much as you can, really, without it like starting to add some sort of unwanted distortion or whatever, sounding weird. But generally you do want it to be very significant. I would recommend a compression of as much as 16 dB or more. So here I've set my threshold to have that. So you can see that we're getting about 16 dB of compression here. And also you'll notice I had to crank this makeup gain knob all the way up just to get my after processing peaks to be roughly the same as before processing. So definitely make sure that you make use of this knob when using the glue compressor. And a lot of times if you want to do the soft clipping here, use it as well. It's just limiting for if peaks cross 0 dB. I personally don't hear much of the difference when you use it or not, but feel free to experiment with that as well. So that's basically it as far as the stock Ableton glue compressor. If you do have some analog compressor emulators like the 1176 or the SSL, I would strongly recommend using those. They might actually sound a little bit better than Ableton's glue compressor, but once again, this is just a matter of taste. I just know that a lot of times people will use those, and I personally prefer the 1176 when I do my mixes. Although I do know that the glue compressor in Ableton is modeled after the SSL as well, so it's pretty decent. In any case, I hope you guys got the gist of it, got to hear the difference before and after. I'll just do it real quick once again. Glue compressor. So yeah, makes a huge difference. I hope you guys can really hear that. So if you guys like the video, please hit like, please subscribe. I will be making a lot more videos in the future, and peace out. I'll see you guys in the next one.